Afternoon, everyone. Steve, you're on the line, right? Yeah, but he didn't answer. Katie, we had Steve on.
Yeah, he's just muted, so it takes him a second probably to unmute. He's on the line.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, I want to call to order the golf committee meeting today. We have a quorum and 5 people, so we're all set on a quorum. I thought I was muted.
Go ahead and keep talking.
Oh, okay. First, the minutes from the last committee meeting of November 12th. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections? Not hearing any, then we'll accept those minutes as was posted. Okay, we'll start off with staff reports, and we'll begin with Pat O'Hara.
Are you muted? Is anyone else logged in? Can you join me?
I don't use that. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, this is always tough for me. All right, just wanted to reiterate the COVID-19 restrictions. Just really want to encourage everybody on the mask up, 6 feet, social distancing, 10 or less in a group. Seeing some congregating at times, but every time I'm out there counting, it seems like it's 10 or less. So appreciate everybody's support with that. Tournament, we have our second tournament of the year this Saturday, 120 players. It's going to be over at Trail Ridge. It's 9-hole best ball, 9-hole scramble. Have 28, I believe, women playing, so that'll be one flight, and then the rest of the balance of the 120 will be men into 3 different flights. Reminder for closures on Christmas. Courses that are open, Deer Valley, Grandview, and Stardust. Those will be the 3 courses open. For those that have been in the community for a while, at one time we were opening all 7 courses on holidays. We found out that the numbers didn't warrant that, so we cycled them through. We keep 4 golf courses open on Thanksgiving and 3 on Christmas. So we rotate it every year. Added benefit to that is that our staff is able to enjoy one of the 2 holidays on a yearly basis. All right, November 14th, we had the Green Team kickoff event. Went really well. Had a good turnout. We cut the field in half due to the COVID restrictions, and had a lot of participation from the golf instructors. 3-hour clinic for 30 new golfers. Here's a picture of one of the stations. This happened to be the iron station being taught by Mark Adcock. Social distancing was being observed. This past weekend, we had a junior golf tournament. This was the JGAA, Junior Golf Association of Arizona. This was the 3rd year we've hosted this particular event. As you can see, we had 111 golfers each day. We hosted the 15 to 18-year-old boys division. These were the championship players. They played from the blue tees for the most part. And the winning score was 10 under par, 67-67, which was quite impressive.
Pat,
Yes.
this is me. Hey, if you could, on that, will you please inform these folks how that kid finished?
So I was really impressed with Scott McNevin. He runs these events. This is a nonprofit organization, been around for a long time in the Phoenix area, and I was looking at the results, and I said, "Wow!" I knew he shot 67 the first day, and he shot another 67. So I just went to his scorecard because you can look at it online. And the winner, he won it by 4, come to find out, but he finished on Grandview. He finished birdie, birdie, eagle, birdie, par. He holed out on 16 for a 2.
Wow.
So I said, good for you.
That is cool.
How about that? That's pretty strong.
Sign them up.
He's a Sun Devil,
What's that?
soon to be Sun Devil.
So, no, that's another gentleman.
Oh, dang it.
Another gentleman. Oop, is that my last one? Guess that's it. All right, that's my presentation for golf operations. Trying to think if there's anything at last minute that we need to add. I think we're good. So, any questions?
Okay, committee, Dave, any questions? Patty? Tim? Norman? Steve?
That helps.
Yes, not. Okay, Pete? Who's going to be up next?
Should I just do this from here? Or do you want?
Yeah, Pete,
Okay.
you can do it from there, sure.
It's a good, obviously you can't see that up there, so everybody please reference the hard copy. On the year-to-date, things are in good shape through October. Our revenues on golf fees are up 12% over budget. Ancillary revenue, primarily golf cart rentals and range revenues, up to 50,000. So, and cell towers are in there too, but the good revenues coming out of there. I would say the golf fees were up 12%. You'd expect some of that coming out of golf rounds down at the bottom. In terms of the statistical, that's up 23%. So we are seeing some rotation into, resident play and card holder play versus, the more profitable, if you will, guest fees and outside play, but it's still positive overall. Merchandise and food these are the shortfalls you'd expect with some of the restrictions we have out there. So 145 favorable, 145K favorable to 4 months. Expense side, if you go to the bottom, a negative is kind of a misnomer. 105 is actually favorable to budget. If you kind of look, almost all of them are brackets, so I think we're managing very well on the expense side. The one notable item of increase is landscape maintenance. That's fertilizer, seeds, and things like that. And Todd can tell you it was a very, very difficult transition this year. So with the water and things like that. So I believe we're sitting good on a year-to-date 251,000 favorable variance, and not a whole lot more to discuss, but field any questions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions of Pete? Dave? Patty? Tim?
I have a question. Yeah, Pete, how does that 251,000 favorable compare to what was lost earlier in the year when we were closed for that period of time?
Well, Tim, if I'm hearing you right, what did we close out prior year at for golf operations? in
Well,
total?
I'm just yeah, for that quarter that we were closed.
Oh, well, it's significant. I'm sorry, I don't probably have the numbers, but I'm quite certain that quarter alone had to have been close to a $700,000-800,000 loss.
Okay, thanks.
Norman?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Pete. All right, we'll turn the microphone over to Todd.
Just a couple updates today. Really, in golf maintenance, this is our slow time of the year, December, right after overseeding and probably through the first half of January. So this is kind of our downtime, and then things really start picking up probably mid-January, especially towards the end of January, and then through the spring and summer. We've had several frosts. In fact, I have a sheet here in just a minute. It shows you time of delay and all that. But with that frost, we have some areas out in the fairways that have started showing through, meaning the Bermudas started showing through. And we kind of knew that, and that's normal. So we've reseeded those areas. We've fertilized them. We've been hand watering those areas. Of course, a day like today with the rain really helps out. We got lots of seed down in there. So it's going to be short-lived. So you'll see some thin areas or some brown areas in the fairways, but each week they're going to get better and better. So our height of cut on the greens, as of we were going to do it next week, but we decided to go ahead and do it this morning. We dropped down to 125, which is 1/8 of an inch on our greens, and that's where we'll hold out. We'll hold that height for until springtime, and if we can go down just a little bit lower, we will, but we'll maintain that height for the rest of the season. And also on our fairways, we went down to 500, which is a 1/2 inch. And again, we'll hold at that height all the way until spring, and then for transition, we'll probably tighten that up a little bit and drop it down just to help aid the transition and get the Bermuda going. And then the other thing I have, greens aerification. We do this every year. A solid tine. It's a 3/8 solid tine that we use on the greens. And we do that mid-January, towards the end of January, and it just helps with the compaction, alleviate the compaction, because the greens do tend to firm up this time of the year a little bit, so that'll help. And there's no disruption to the green. You might see some holes for a couple days, but as soon as we do the aerification, we get in there, we mow the greens, we roll the greens, and it smooths them out, and so it doesn't, no disruption to the surface. All right, on this, our number that we had for the text messaging was compromised, so we had to change the number. And unfortunately, I put the wrong number up here, that 22456. It should be 22454. I don't know where I got the 6, but that was my mistake. So that's the new number for the text messaging. And then here's our frost delays. We had one frost delay. We started on the 29th of November. We had a 30-minute car path restriction again on the 1st, and then we got into Friday. We had an hour and a half delay, 1 hour both days over the weekend, and then on Monday we had another hour frost delay. And then, of course, we had rain today. Nobody was out playing. We did have car path restrictions. As far as tomorrow goes, I'm not real sure. We may have a little bit of a restriction in the morning. If we receive some more rain overnight, that could cause a delay, or not a delay, but a path restriction tomorrow, especially at Deer Valley. They tend to get really wet over there. So. And then just another reminder for everybody listening out there, please observe the 90-degree rule, stay on the car paths as much as possible. At our last meeting, Tom Wogemuth brought up the idea that we should be announcing for the golfers to be driving in the rough as much as possible. That next morning, I went out and toured some golf courses and looking at the rough, and it's really beat down. I think a lot of that has to do with having 4 carts per group. And so at that time, I decided, you know what, we don't want to encourage golfers driving in the rough, so we'll just make it real simple. We'll see 90-degree rule and stay on the car paths as much as possible. So I think that's the way to go right now. And then in the springtime, we might want to go ahead and start trying to drive in the rough a little bit more. So, all right, and then keeping carts 30 feet from the greens and tees, repair ball marks, and replace divots. So just a reminder for everybody listening out there. And I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Okay. Do you have any questions, David? Patty, no? Tim?
Yeah, I have a question. Todd, I've been noticing on a couple of the courses, it's pretty random, but they're fairly circular in size. They range anywhere from this to this, brown spots in the middle of, green areas. I don't know if it looks like it's diseased or, it doesn't look like it's just, a bad transition or
Okay.
bad overseeding, so.
Right, and that's on the greens?
No, mainly, I've seen it on the tee blocks and out in the fairways.
Okay, okay. I don't know if that's the Bermuda showing through, where it's just kind of thin on the ryegrass, and then with the frost and cold weather we've had, the Bermuda, turns brown, and then that's what's really showing through. So I don't know if that's
well,
what you're seeing or not.
The thing that I thought was odd was they're all relatively circular. If it was the Bermuda, you would think it would be more
Yeah.
kind of a scattered pattern, but these are all kind of circular.
Okay. I'd have to look at that and see. I'm not sure what that would be, but
Next time I see one, I'll take a picture
yeah,
of it.
I don't think there would be any diseases out there this time of year with this cool weather and cut back on the watering a little bit. So I don't think that would be it. So maybe it's something I don't know, maybe mechanical. I'll have to look at that. Okay. Patty, is that separate from what you were talking about? On the grains? Okay.
It looks like it's around repaired holes. That's where I've seen it. I have seen that too.
Okay.
And I don't know whether it's,
It could be a couple things. If the greens are close to having frost on them, and the cup setter, if he's out there and he uses a plastic bucket and he sets the bucket down, you'll get that ring. There was a time that the cup changer had the bucket in the back of the cart, and it spilled some gas in there. So it was setting in gas. So every time he took the bucket out to change the cup, he'd put the bucket down, and then you'd get a perfect dead ring around there. So anyway, I'm going to look at that tomorrow morning, see what's going on. Okay.
Okay. Norman, any questions?
No.
Steve? Yes, not.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, we'll switch over to our GM, Bill.
Thank you, sir. Before I jump into the COVID thing, I do want to say that I had a brief evaluation with Todd at the end of the year here this morning, and I did have to write him up on one thing, and that was ordering all the rain on one day.
Yeah, all right.
If you could do a little better with that, that would be terrific. COVID. Gave this report to the governing board the other day. Again, these are our three benchmarks that we look at based on the Arizona Department of Health when it comes to business closures. It does not affect golf course operations per se. However, there are some things that have come out recently that we want to at least talk to you about today relative to golf. However, either one. When we talk about the cases and the percentage of positivity rates and the COVID-like illnesses, go ahead, Katie, you can jump. Last week, the numbers were, if you can see that grid there, the gold line is the 100,000 percentage scenario there, cases per 100,000. We should be below that gold line. As you can see, we're well above that in the state of Arizona. The percentage of positivity as of last week was at 11%, I believe, depending on what governmental agency you're going to, Department of Health in Maricopa County, I've seen it as high as 18% in the last week. So definitely going in the wrong direction that way. And then the last of the benchmarks is the hospital visits for COVID-like illnesses. It was around 5% a week or so ago. And the threshold for business closures is at 10%. And as of today, we were at 9.8. So don't know where that's going next week when the new numbers get posted, but it could force us into shutting down gymnasiums and fitness centers and those types of things like we had to do in the summertime based on those benchmarks. So that's where we're at. We're keeping an eye, obviously, on the numbers, and as you can tell as well as I can, watching the news and those types of things, we are spiking after Thanksgiving, and we'll see where that takes us. The White House did issue a report yesterday, or a statement yesterday, that they were wishing and hoping that Arizona would do a little bit more than they're doing based on what their numbers were doing in the summer when they implemented some of those prevention measures. But as we sit here today, the governor came out last week, basically presented his executive order, and we follow those. So we're very concerned about, again, larger groups, making sure people are masked up, keep your distance, and stay sanitized. So those are the tickets there. Like I mentioned, the three benchmarks scenario are the requirements for indoor gyms, fitness centers, and the like. And so we're paying attention to those. That could change next week. And when it comes to Sun City, Obviously, our golf courses are very, very important to who we are and what we are. The sales on homes have been absolutely tremendous. The APF fees from last month were up over 30 or 40 from the year prior. So home sales are moving. When we do surveys of people coming in, getting their new photos, their new cards, golf is in the top 3 of why they come into our office. So it's still a very, very important service that we provide, which is all very positive. Jumping to the next. This is a business article out of an Arizona State University newspaper, but businesses are suffering in the state of Arizona, but golf courses are soaring. AIA golf course, high school teams are competing. Go ahead and jump. And okay, yeah, and Pat touched on this, but last week at Grandview, this tournament took place, and more kudos to Todd. The feedback that Pat got, and these people play all over the state year-round, that the greens at Grandview were the best they played on all year. So, I mean, great compliments to our golf course system, the guys that were out there supervising. You can move on, Katie, on that one. Anytime that there's a group over 50 now, be it executive order from the government, we have to supply them some documentation of who the group is and what their safety precautionary measures are that they're being taken. The golf folks provided us 3 pages worth of will-dos, can-dos, and must-dos. And so they were very, very well covered. I think they were very well behaved. They were throwing hula hoops out there to stand in so people wouldn't get close enough to each other. And they were doing some pretty neat things. The parents that went out there looking at their kids were in single carts, single person in a cart. So it was all, I think, managed very well by Pat's staff and the junior golf folks. So way good on that. Nothing but compliments. And that's where we're at as far as that goes. Stay healthy. We've had some incidents within administration here at our offices. So we are doing our best to kind of keep people safe and thinning out the office settings, making sure we got distancing and plexiglass up as best we can, and wearing masks indoors is very, very important. So we're doing the best we can to kind of keep this at bay. So thank you.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Bill? No questions? Bill, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, whoever, I guess, going to do the next one, it's on the group play update that we started last month.
Okay, just wanted to give everybody an update and share with all of you some thoughts and ideas on group play. A couple weeks ago, we met with a large percentage of the group play monitors in some 10, 20, some of these meetings went up as long as an hour long to talk about group play challenges, changes, opportunities. And I appreciate everybody participating in that. We have a couple that are on the committee that were part of that, so I appreciate everybody's input. And it was very enlightening. Our goal here is to work with Policy 6, which is also trying to distribute tee times, make sure that group play is part of that, and that becomes a component of this down the road that we're working towards. How do we define group play going forward, and what does that consist of? Can we use the lottery system for group play? And appreciate all the monitors' willingness to try to use the lottery going forward. We did that in November and first part of December, and it's still going on. We're seeing some areas that we need to work on to make this go forward with group play. And right now, we're not ready to throw that group play's way just yet. So starting the 24th of December, we're going to continue with group play with some changes to it, and that's what we want to talk about today. I've got a slide in here on what numbers for group play look like, and I want to share that with everyone. and then the possible changes that we're going to incorporate. So the meetings and the feedback that we've got from group play, benefits of group play, were pretty consistent. The camaraderie of the groups playing together, playing with people that they know, people they socialize with. Another advantage for group play is that the members get to know the course rotation and the tee times well in advance. And then a lot of the group play members, as we know, are dedicated and regular players. They play quite frequently. Most of them are card holders. They have a Coyote, Kachina, or an unlimited card. Challenges that we found out that group play had with the lottery, may not get the desired time or the course because they're being part of the lottery for everyone. May not get consecutive tee times. There's a component to the lottery system where you can ask for a break to maximize your odds in getting a particular course or particular time. So consecutive tee times might not be part of that selection in the lottery. And then the communication of the lottery selection. If you go to the waiting list and one of the staff members from data entry calls your group that was not selected, you no longer have that communication tool. It's on a foursome by foursome basis. And so that was talked about as from the monitor standpoint. So here recently we had some changes to the lottery system, some improvements that we're excited about. One of them was the fact that we could start taking requests for tee times through the lottery system up to 40 players. And that's what kind of prompted this discussion is, can the lottery system be used for group play? And in doing so, we found out that there was some challenges. And we're working through those. And I think eventually down the road, this could be something that can be used, but we want to make sure that it's fair and equitable to everybody going forward. We don't want to take one step forward and two steps back. One of the tendencies that we saw in this lottery, and for those of you that are submitting lottery requests, you know that you can either do it by course or by time, and we're finding that sometimes when you do that, it seemed like some of the bigger groups were getting pushed to an executive golf course. So those are one of the things that we were trying to investigate and find out if that's true or not. So here's the data that I wanted to share with the golf committee. On the slide here, you've got, or on the screen here, you've got a slide that shows each day of the week and the size of groups. Size of groups on that day. Okay, thank you. And I lost my. Did that just time out? Oh, it's okay. So what you have here on the screen is a slide that indicates size of groups and number of groups on each day. And this was a telltale sign for us in doing some research. In deciphering this, you can see on Monday we have 13 groups. Out of those 13 groups, 7 of them are 40 or more, 40 players. Another big day for us is Thursday. Those are more evenly spread out from a size standpoint. And then Friday, you see that we have 12 groups, and 9 of those are 40 players. So out of the 57 groups that we have that we schedule on a weekly basis, 22 of them are 40-player groups. Thank you. So that's where we see the compaction issues. Average 9.5 groups per day. We take Wednesday out of that due to the men's day and them taking most of the golf course. And out of the 57 groups, only 4 of them are executive courses only. So 93% of the groups are part of a regulation rotation. So with all this said, and having some interaction and some dialogue with the monitors, a couple suggestions were made. In order to have non-group play golfers have a feeling or having the ability to book a tee time Monday through Friday at peak times being the first 4 hours of the day for us. One of the guidelines that was recommended was that no more than 50% of the tee times should be booked prior to the lottery run, which means 50% or less would be group play tee times. That number came about because if we just used regulation golf courses and tried to use them for all the group play that wanted to book on regulation, those percentages were upwards to 80, 90%. In fact, one day, on Monday, group play consisted of more tee times than tee times available at peak time. It was 108%, believe it or not. So in order to dilute and get to the 50% mark, we would use all 7 golf courses, and we would use the window of 7:30 to 11:30 to put group play in. And in doing so, that got us below the 50% mark to make it equitable for the non-group play. The other component to this was to expand the length of time or window that a group could tee off. So in other words, if a group requested or would like to have a 9 o'clock, 9:30 tee time, let's say 9 o'clock for example, we have a 90-minute window in which to tee them off. So if they wanted 9 o'clock, we could tee them off at 9, 9:30, 10, 10:30. And that would be a rotation. It wouldn't be a 10:30 every week. It would just be a rotation that we could use to maximize that 4-hour window from 7:30 to 11:30. We would rotate the group play through all 7 golf courses. Now currently, for those that are in group play, we use an 18-week schedule where 12 weeks out of the 18 are regulation, 6 weeks are executive. But in order to get down to that 50%, and in order to get to a consistent rotation, we're looking at using a 7-week touch all 7 golf course rotation. Now, that's something we're still looking at, trying to accommodate the numbers as best we can, but that's one of the ways that's also going to help dilute these numbers so that everybody has a fair chance of getting a good prime time tee time. Guests, we're still going to limit it to 10% on the day of play. The other suggestion that was recommended was that there was a maximum of 3 times a year a particular guest. One of the biggest complaints that we've gotten from group play is that there are people outside our community that are regularly getting tee times, piggybacking off group play, and getting a tee time ahead of our other residents. By limiting the number of times a year in which they can play, we've curtailed that and slowed that problem down. Still having a 90% completion rate, meaning that whatever you book, 90% of that needs to play. And then the other and final component to this was to encourage new residents to get involved with group play. So we're asking all group play monitor group themselves to solicit, if they have room, for new players, meaning new residents, so they can be part of this program. Sometimes it's perceived that it's a closed shop out there. Some of the groups are very good about saying, hey, we need more players. Some are saying, no, we're pretty content to where we are, which I understand both sides, but we would like to have new residents or fairly new residents be part of this program as well. That's it. So those were the findings that we came up with. Those are the recommendations that we feel would cover both sides of this situation, where we can keep group play intact, but yet still keep the non-group play resident happy, and they have the feeling that they can get a good tee time as well. Any questions going forward on that?
Okay, let's go around the table. Dave, do you have any questions of Pat?
I guess not. I was just wondering, I'm glad I think it's a good thing to go to all 7 courses and not try to force groups into the 4 regulation courses. I've heard some feedback from fellows I play with that don't have any problem doing that, so that should not be a big issue. And it looks like you can we're now making the lottery work, and my question a week or so ago was, does the lottery even something we should try to use for group play? It looks like there's so many variables in there that it might not be something we can finagle enough to satisfy all the problems, but what I'm hearing right now sounds like it's getting a lot better. That's all.
Thank you, Dave. Patty?
Pat, how many groups play more than once a week? Like,
I can give you a good guess, and I can confirm it in a little bit because I've got that written down, but there's probably 8 to 10 that play multiple times a week. I've got one I know that plays 3 times a week.
I know my husband's.
Okay. Okay.
So the question is if you're doing this, we have no problem, I have no problem with the rotation of the executive courses and regulation courses. We've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years, so not a big deal. But if you've got 3 groups in 1 week and you've got multiple players playing on those 3 days, is there a way that you could prevent having them all be executive that particular week?
Right. So one of the challenges we do have, Patty, and you bring up a good point, is we treat each one of those groups separately. We don't tie them together, meaning they stand on their own. That's something we can look at and something that we don't necessarily want to have happen, but with other events going on, and Thursday tends to be the challenge for us with the special events that we have, anywhere from Stardust Men's Niners, it's on Thursday, to the Ladies Choya, to the Ladies Team Play. Those things all kind of, especially January and February, as you know, kind of make Thursday tough. So something has to give, and sometimes that's where it is. If it happens to be on another day other than Thursday. And I think, doesn't Dwayne play on Saturday too?
No, he doesn't play on Saturday. It's Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So Thursday's the kicker, but we'll try our best. I just can't at this time make any promises since we do keep them separate.
Anything else, Pat? Tim, it's all yours.
Yeah, I do. Pat, can we expect a policy to be written around this set of rules so that this debate doesn't come up in the
Correct.
future?
Correct. That's where we want to go with this. And I think writing a policy right now would be a little quick for us to do that, because I want to make sure it's ironed out and that what we write is palatable, plus it's something that we can deliver. Otherwise, I think we'd be looking at this on a regular basis.
Yeah. I would greatly support a policy that includes all this.
Okay?
Okay, Tim? Norman?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Regarding the 90% rule, if you have 10% of no-shows, how and when would that be enforced?
So the last couple of years, we looked at that as often as we could, but typically this time of year, we try to do it monthly. And the challenge with that is usually our cycle was 7 to 9 weeks long. We would look at it on a cycle basis and then make adjustments from that. So for an example, if you said that you wanted to have 32 players and for 7 to 9 weeks you were only delivering 24, that next cycle is where we would decide, hey, 32 is not a good number for you, 24, 28 would be the way to go in order to make sure that because what we're battling is we need to maximize that lottery, but we want to give you what you're asking for, but you need to fill it. So,
Okay, so this would be done on an average basis and not on a per-day basis, for instance.
correct. We would look at it as an occurrence. So out of 7 weeks, you did real well 5, and the other 2, you didn't do too well. That's where we will discuss it with you and see what your challenges are and see what we need to do to adjust.
Okay, in the past, before they started the 7-week cycle, they always asked us how many tee times we needed.
Correct.
Are you going to be doing that before the 24th of December?
Well, actually, I sent out a request, and I got yours, Norm, and I can tell you exactly what I've got for you.
Well, yeah, but that's why I responded to you the second time, because we have 34 members, but we generally don't get more than 28 players on any given day.
So Norm,
So I didn't want 8 or 9 tee times,
right, tell me what's your name of your group?
the Monday Bunch.
So your history in January, February, March of last year in April was all 32, and I've got you earmarked for 32 for this year as well. Is that what you'd like?
I don't think we can fill it.
Okay.
I think 28 would be more appropriate, but there's where I run into a problem, because every once in a while, all these people come out of the woodwork, and they want to play, you know?
Sure.
And then we got 32, and I'm sitting on 28, so.
You know, and Norm, you can run it any way you want to, but I think a waiting list isn't a bad thing to have. You get 28 and you have 2 or 3 on the waiting list, and you can call them when somebody can't show, because you know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I would make it easier on you.
Yeah, well, 28's more appropriate. Also, I wonder if, you know, I think a lot of people live in the community aren't aware of groups, aren't aware of the fact that they're open to anybody who wants to join. I wonder if Golf Ops could help us in promoting groups, you know, in the community.
Absolutely, and I think this would be something that we could put on our website, and we could break it by day, and then we could put the contacts in there if that's the way the monitor wants to
Yeah, that'd be good.
advertise it. Absolutely. Patty, did you have a question?
So I have 7 tee times reserved, but when I send in my request for the following Saturday, if I have 20, then I booked for 20 people, and if I have 24, I book for 24 people. So I don't really take all 28 every week, but I shouldn't get penalized for that, because I'm only using 24 or 20 when the lotteries run.
Right, so the way we look at it is, what did you request at the time the lottery ran,
Okay,
and what did you fill?
by the
Because
time.
if you ask for 28, and you're planning on only filling 20, and that 2 groups sat empty through the lottery, that's where we get in trouble.
No, that's
Yeah.
not what I do.
Good.
No, it's either the 24 or the 20, and then I don't book all 28 just to hold places.
Right.
And then when I do cancel, I keep track of who takes that tee time that I let go and how often they are taken, so.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, there any other questions? Bill?
Thank you, sir. I was just curious if Tim was volunteering to be on the policy writing committee.
It would be my distinct pleasure.
Now, did you really expect anything different, Bill? I'd like to ask Steve if he's got any comments, but I think Bill muted him. I don't know if he's going to be
No, I
able
just
to.
lowered the volume. I just lowered the volume a little bit.
It looks like he was muted.
Do we want to put that committee or subcommittee together? Bob?
Okay, let me just first check and see if Steve, is Steve?
Sure, sure.
I don't know. Only because I see on his microphone, we got a line across it. I thought that meant he was muted.
He's unmuted now.
Steve, do you hear us, Steve? See, he said something and we're not getting it. I think that muted him, Bill. Hold on, Steve, we're trying to get to you. Okay, Steve, do you hear us, Steve? We're still not getting anything from him. Smoke signals? We'll do smoke signals. Okay, Steve, sorry, but we can't seem to get you in on us. We see that you're on here, but we can't get your voice. All right, let's go back then to, okay, we can hear you now, Steve. I guess you've been listening to everything. Do you have any questions?
Katie told me to mute on this end, and when I tried to unmute, I was unable to, so you have allowed me to speak now.
Okay.
So I'm unmuted.
You have any questions for us?
No, I'm good to go. Good explanation.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, let's get back to, all right, so we want to set up a subcommittee. So Tim, I understand that you are volunteering. You're in the Army, right?
I'm free Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Is there anybody else that'd like to be on that? And Patty? Okay, and then to be working with Pat and Bill, I guess, on it. So that'll be the subcommittee. Okay, good. Thank you,
Very good.
everyone.
All right, thank you.
Yes, you are.
Somebody asked me that earlier, so I'd be happy to help.
So we could put a third person on it. So we have Tim, Patty, and Steve will be working with Bill and Pat on setting up a policy. Thank you, everyone, for that.
Very good.
Okay, just some real quick stuff. I know last meeting we went through a bunch of the golf policies, and we went before the governing board at the workshop and told them that we had consensus on the changes. There was just then some questions, and I'm going to bring it back here to get the consensus again on them, and they're minor changes, really. So if everybody has consensus here, it will go before the board for a full meeting, full vote next week. All right, on the policy G7, we had moved that one section from another policy, the golf course usage. We put it here in G7. What everybody was wondering, and I think it was a good idea, is we should add the general manager besides the governing board as having the authority to. In other words, it says here, use of the golf course is limited to authorized golfers. Other activities not related to golf are prohibited unless approved by, so we want to add the word general manager and or the governing board. We don't want them to make it that they both have to agree. Only one person has to agree. George?
I would say that in this case here, if the general manager goes forward, it is under his auspice of operational. I don't think the governing board should have a whole lot of say in what the general manager does on the courses. He's the one who oversees them along with his staff.
Right. So are you saying that we should take even the governing board out?
I think people like to hear that the governing board is involved with it, but to that point, I agree with you. One of the things when it comes to policies like this, you don't want somebody who goes to the general manager and doesn't get the answer they want, then they come to the governing board, and get an answer that they want, and then they have a conflict between the two.
Right.
I think a one point of contact and decision-making is important. I don't think that, I can sit here and say, I don't think there's decisions that will be made by the general manager about these things that wouldn't be discussed with us. But I don't know about the ins and the outs on it.
Okay, all right, so what we are going to propose then is that they're going to change that to be unless approved by the general manager instead of the governing board.
I
Okay.
think Mr. Hurley has a question and
Yeah,
comment.
I'm just going to go around. Anybody have a question on that?
No, I totally agree, and here's a situation that we could very well be in the next couple of years.
I want that in writing, that you agree.
Oh, George, all the time. Now, here's the situation that we might get into. I don't know who's running for the board this time, but we could get into a situation where we have no board members that are actual golfers. And they might, the board, if it's left to non-golfers, they might decide to have polo matches on the fairway. You know, I think we need to leave it up to the general manager, period.
Okay, anybody else have any opinions on it?
I agree with just using general manager. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, and Patty, who also? Norman?
Yeah.
Steve? Steve, I think, left his phone. Okay, but we have a consensus here, so it will go before the board next week with the consensus that we'll replace governing board with general manager. Okay, and one other one that's listed on here, we didn't even go to this one. This is on C03, section 1.4.4. The committee chair shall make recommendations to the general manager and governing board for the capital equipment and projects by December 1 each year. This was discussed at the board workshop, and actually every standing committee has a number like this, policy number in it, and what they're recommending, and we just want to make sure it's okay with our committee under our section, take out governing board, because you make your recommendations to the general manager. The governing board doesn't get that until the budget comes before them anyway. So we're going to put that forward.
And Bob, if I may just reiterate on that, it is the general manager's budget. It is
right.
not the governing board. The governing board approves the appropriation. We do not approve the line items that go into it.
Exactly. So is there any questions by board members here? If not, I have a consensus, and we'll just push that forward for our committee also. Okay, let's go around. Anybody got any outstanding issues, or they got any comments they want to make? Go ahead, Patty.
Okay, I know the COVID is going up, but I'm going to make another request. Can we please at least try a shotgun at Deer Valley? I have now got 240 players each week, and that's going to be low once we turn to the first of the year, because quite a few people will be coming back. This week alone, I am sending 60 people to Echo Mesa and have 180 people at Deer Valley. We're running both courses, both tournaments. I just would like to have a test run, or at least keep thinking about it. Otherwise, I'm going to keep asking. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure our committees will look at that. Okay. That's all, Patty?
Well, if
Something
you-
else? Go ahead.
Well, if you have all those guidelines for having a tournament here with the junior golfers, and you have all those requirements, we can abide by all those requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And so why can't we have the shotgun?
Okay. Got that, fine? All right, thank you, Patty. Dave, you didn't have any comments, issues? Okay. Tim?
I just want to thank Pat and Bill for working on the group play situation again.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Norman?
I'm good.
You good? Steve, are you there? Okay, good. Do you have any comments or concerns that you want to address to us?
Good to go. I'll be there hopefully in person in January.
Oh, that's great. We'll be looking forward to seeing you, Steve. Thank you. Okay, with that, we didn't have any comments come in from anybody, did we, George?
No, there have been no comments from outside, but I just want to make a mention of the fact, if the golf committee would like me to, I will be happy to include in my next column that comes out, an invitation to go in and approach different groups to join. Be happy to do that for you guys, because I think golf is by far one of the most important things we have in the community, and it's a shining jewel that we need to keep it foremost in our people.
Okay,
But
go
I'll be
ahead.
happy to do that if you'd like me to.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
I do have a question, and this applies to the other chartered clubs too, but our bylaws state that the clubs have to have certain meetings during the course of the year, general membership meetings and things like that.
Isn't it quarterly?
Quarterly, yeah. I mean, how is that being addressed by the other clubs? And are we just taking waivers on them all, or what is up with that?
And Tim, the recreation manager has been working with them. A lot of them are doing them via Zoom or whatever the technology that they use. We have Join Me that we use here, but a lot of them have done that. And really, as we're going forward, they've continued that. I don't know how the individual golfer groups do. I know we have, 24 of them or different clubs out there that
Of
are
various sizes, yeah.
various sizes. How they meet, I mean, I know they can't gather together, but I'm sure if they need to, they can do an online meeting. We're more than happy to help them with that. We can't exempt it because it falls under the IRS code that we can't exempt those things, but still, all in all, if they need to have it, we can have it.
So does the rec center have technology we can use to do that? Because, I'll give you an example, we normally have a general membership meeting in December where we bring in 100, 120 people. And that's when we have our breakfast and things like that. That's when we do all of our business as far as electing officers and doing the budget and all that kind of stuff.
And I think Katie moved to a microphone to answer that question in intimate detail.
Okay.
Sure, so we're asking any of the clubs that have need for assistance for a virtual meeting to contact Riley or Phil, and based on the individual club's needs, we'll custom fit a solution for you. Not everybody can use Zoom, depending on if you have too many members, there are limitations in Zoom. Some are just saying, yes, we're going to carry forward our officers for the next year. They didn't hold an election because those officers didn't really get to do their job because we had so many restrictions. So it just depends on the club and what they need to do, but contact Phil or Riley.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, any other questions, Pete?
I apologize, I should have maybe had a couple slides on this, but update, pending the approval of the governing board for the deferred capital, the Pebblebrook putting green is part of that, and assuming approval of that will happen, then Todd here will proceed in the spring. On the budget timeline for the budget cycle coming up, this was also to be a quick snapshot of what was being presented. There's only 2 items that I'm aware of that barring, golf maintenance equipment at a granular level. But material items would have been the Grandview irrigation project and hole number 14 at Trail Ridge for a lakeshore improvement. So unless anybody, is totally convinced that another project out there needs to be discussed, those are the items that most likely will make their way into the budget cycle. We're not making any affirmations here. It's just simply discussion of, what this committee would like to promote.
I know that Todd has a lot of lake work on his forward-looking forecast, but the lake at 1 and 18 in Deer Valley is really receding.
Yeah, that's on the list. I don't know exactly where that is on the reserve study, but like Pete mentioned, we have number 14, the 2 upper lakes by the Green Complex. We have that scheduled for this summer. And then we were thinking about doing number 14 or 16, I'm sorry, over at Stardust, not 16, but 14 at Stardust. And we kind of put that on the back burner for right now. We'd like to do some other things over there, some tree removal, some planting of new trees and stuff like that, because we're closed over there this summer. And so I'm not sure where that falls with those two lakes, but we have a series of them on all the golf courses, spread out over the next 20-some years, so.
That brings up a question. So if we're going to do Grandview this summer of '21,
22, the
22,
irrigation,
okay.
yeah, spring of 22, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Any other questions? Yes, Bill?
Just a heads up, as you're driving through town, if you see a white truck with an individual with an orange vest that looks very official, normally Todd's guys are not working later in the afternoon, but we've had people digging up our trees along the side of the road and taking them home. So if you could, if you see any of that kind of, they have cones out, they have barricades out, they look very official.
Yeah, I've seen them, I thought.
We don't know who they are.
Now, our staff is usually gone by 1:30, so anything after
Yeah.
1:30 is definitely not us, so.
Everybody loves our trees, too, not only the community, the trees. Wow, that's great.
So
Okay,
if
if
you
there's
see that, who would you call?
you would have to, you would call the rec centers, and then they'll take it from there. And if they need assistance, then they'll call the sheriff's office. Either that or we'll set up another third posse, and we'll go out there and just roam around the trees. No problem. Okay, if that's it, then I'll adjourn this meeting, and the next meeting is set for January 14th, right here at 1:30. Everybody stay safe and follow the rules, please.
Happy new tax year to everybody.
Okay, thank you.